This is Jay Hughes from Press On, and I am absolutely honored and excited to have as my guest today Michael J. Maher. Michael is one of the hottest speakers right now in the country, known as North America's most referred real estate professional, and has sold over 1,500 homes from referrals over the last 13 years. And he is now the president of productivity, leading 1,200 agents with over $2 billion in sales. His book, The 7 Levels of Communication, Go from Relationships to Referrals, has been an international bestseller for over 3 years and became a bestseller in only 7 days, and then went #1 8 more times entirely by word of mouth and referral. This book is endorsed by Dave Ramsey, Gary Keller, Todd Duncan, and many more. Michael is also the founder of the Generosity Generation, the largest group of the most referable professionals in the world. Michael grew up in Kansas City. He still has his real estate company there, and I know, Michael, you guys just recently moved in the last year to Atlanta, Georgia. He's there with his wife Sherry, his son Max, and their Jack Russell Terrier named Lucky. So Michael, again, thank you so much for being with me today.
Jay, it's an honor and a privilege, and thank you so much for having me on. I definitely am looking forward to this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So you're obviously very well known for creating and kind of maintaining a business based off referrals, and you've helped a ton of people do the same. So let's start off like right there. Why referrals? Why should a mortgage or real estate professional, in your mind, really work to generate a business based off referrals?
Well, we're all in the word-of-mouth business, and word-of-mouth leads to referrals. I mean, look at BP. You know, they were known as the Green Company, and then a little incident off the coast of the Gulf, and all of a sudden, you know, the word-of-mouth was not pleasant for them. And so the first thing is if you can hone and develop a word-of-mouth business, everything else takes care of itself. People read your marketing differently. They read your advertising differently, entirely based on your reputation and how they feel about you. The other thing is listen, I've tried it all. You know, when I started in real estate, I was going to be successful, period. So I did the cold calling, and it was right at that time that the do not call list came out. And I read the instructions on the do not call list, and it is like, wow, look at that. If I called the wrong person, I could get a $10,000 fine. I mean, that would make me a criminal. To be fined from the government, $10,000 would essentially makes me a criminal. So do I want to be a criminal? The answer is no. So I'm not going to do cold calling. And then I thought, okay, well, you know, another way to do this is I could go door to door and knock on the doors and so on and so forth. So I went to a neighborhood that I really liked, Nottingham Downs, and I was going to knock on the first door, and the sign on the front said no solicitation. So I thought, well, am I really? Well, I kind of am. That's my intent. So I went to the next door, and there's a sign on the front of that door and says no solicitation. Then I went to the third door, and it was like, wow, somebody was selling no solicitation. Isn't that funny? Selling no solicitation stickers.
Exactly.
And then I noticed on the fifth door that there was no solicitation. So I knocked on the door, and one of the top agents in Kansas City answered the door, and she was not pleased that I was there to door knock her.
Canvass her neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she politely told me that it was a waste of time and that I shouldn't be here. And to go crawl under a rock somewhere is actually her exact phrase. And so I did. I said, you know what? I don't want to be a solicitor. I just don't like the sound of that, and I don't want to be called, yeah, that guy, he's a solicitor. So and the internet was booming and so on and so forth. So it's like, all right, don't want to be a criminal, don't want to be a solicitor. So what I really need to do is do email campaigns. You know, we need to email people and so on and so forth. Well, I sent out an email blast to just 100 people, and literally 10 of the people replied back and said, don't ever spam me again, you effing spammer. and I got those back, and it was like, wow, okay. So far in real estate, I have the opportunity to be a criminal, a solicitor, or a spammer.
Right.
And it was just like, but my first transaction came from someone I knew, a referral from someone I knew, and it felt good, and it went good, and the trust was already there, and they loved me. I loved them, and it was like, okay, that's interesting. So I have this avenue, or I could take the avenue of just mastering the referral generation. So I did, and it's made all the difference in the world for my life, for my happiness, for my joy, for my family, and for my time. So that's why everybody, in my opinion, should master the referral funnel and then add funnels from there.
So based on that, then why? You said it earlier, you said you tried it all, and you have, right? You didn't want to be the scammer, you didn't want to be a criminal, you've tried it all. Why, if it works, and referrals work so well, and I know you and I are both a huge believer in that, what do you see as the reason why more folks don't really embrace this concept and obtain more referrals? I mean, I know in your world, you say that real estate agents get maybe 3-4 referrals a year. You get 500. So like, why do more real estate mortgage professionals not embrace this concept?
Well, A is because they've never been taught that way. They've never been taught. And B is because they've never been taught how to build great relationships. Because you don't just buy a referral, right?
Right.
You just can't go. You can buy a lead, but you can't buy a referral. So you have to earn a referral, and nobody's ever shown people how to earn a referral. So it's one of those where there's never, and it is not a magic pill, a secret sauce, or a shiny object. Which actually, in my opinion, makes it better. But the bottom line is that you just everybody's looking for the magic pill. If I buy this, I will get this. And what we find is that there is no magic pill out there. And I think it goes back to number 2, where people have just not been taught how to build great relationships. It is human nature to build a relationship to a certain level. A 0 is that there's a relationship scale. 0 is somebody we've never met. When we meet them, we are judging them in 7 seconds. Through the conversation, we are making some decisions that will affect our lifelong relationship with that person. We are either making decisions that they fall into the 1 to 3 category, which is no chemistry. It's just like, this guy's weird. This lady is not for me, right? Or we have them fall into a 4 through 7 category, which is cordial and friendly. Basically, we decide in 7 seconds to 77 seconds whether we would drink beer with them or not, essentially. And we stop there. Well, what we teach in the generosity generation and with the WOW referral system and Boost and everything that we do is that you need to not stop the relationship at a 7. And an 8 is somebody that's a customer. They are somebody who has entrusted you with their money, but there's a 9 and 10 level, and that's where we need to build our relationships and build it into what I call the referral zone, which is those 9 and 10 relationships where they are willing to refer you, they speak highly of you, and it's a great relationship. That's not taught. We like homeostatic relationships. A homeostatic is a balance. We know what they've got to offer, and they know what we've got to offer. Period. But what we really need to do is build harmonic relationships. Harmonic relationships are based on massive value and massive appreciation. We need to give massive value first. When they reciprocate, we need to give massive appreciation and then give massive value back to them. They are very appreciative, and they give massive value back to you. And that is an up-down, harmonic, beautiful relationship. We're not taught how to build harmonic relationships.
Right. So you've mentioned that now a couple times. You said we're not taught. So for someone that's listening for the first time, they haven't read your book. Is that the first step? Would you say, you've got to give first? Is that kind of your premise here?
Yeah. So the 2-step is give massive value first. Give massive value first. And so why don't we do that? We don't do it because there is a risk to it. What if we give massive value and they don't reciprocate. Well, guess what? You've learned how you've practiced your ability to give massive value first, and the more you practice the ability to give massive value first, the better you'll get at it, and the more they will reciprocate. So, and the other thing is it doesn't cost you anything, and it feels good to you. I mean, at least you've given the relationship all that it has to offer, versus the way that most people build relationships is tiptoeing in. You know, they're afraid to give any value because they're waiting for the other person to give them value, which is kind of interesting because the other person's doing the same thing, right? So no value is given, versus give massive value first, which leads to the second step, which is when you do that, they will, especially as you go up the socioeconomic status chain, they will be inclined to reciprocate. And the way they reciprocate is up to you. It really is. And the way they reciprocate is through referrals, the way that we teach it. And when they reciprocate with referrals, you give massive appreciation in response to that referral. So you are obviously and overtly appreciative of that opportunity, regardless of the outcome. So yeah.
Well, you mentioned something that I want to make sure and clarify, because some people may be thinking like, well, wait a second, Michael's saying give massive value, and that's a big word, you know, give massive value, but you also mentioned it doesn't cost you anything. So marry those two concepts together for us. What does that mean to give massive value to somebody?
I love it. So okay, so two things on this. All right, so there's 7 ways. And I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I hope I remember all 7 ways. But the bottom line is there are 7 ways to be generous. There's 7 ways to give massive value first. And they all start with T, which is nice. One way that you can give massive value first is thought. We know that the power of thinking of people, I mean, just thinking of people is powerful, because most people don't think about other people. So thinking of other people. And we also know the power of prayer. And that is thinking of another, right? And that is helping another. So you know, I have been in situations where somebody's like, you know what, I need some prayers. I'm going into surgery. Well, what do we say? We say, well, you know what, I'll do that. I'll put you on the prayer list or whatever. But you know what I do, and I truly encourage it, is right then and there, you put your prayer in writing, or you say your prayer with them, and just get it done, right? So you can give massive value first right there, and that is an extremely powerful occurrence. Don't underestimate the power of thought. The second one is talk. You can talk positively about others. You can speak highly of others to others. You can brag on others to your friends. You can speak highly of another. That's talk. The third one is talent. You have talents besides the chosen profession that you have. You can help them with a computer problem. You can help them with texting. You can help them in many different ways. So you can utilize your talent to give massive value first. Well, I'll expand on it later. But talent. The next one, number 4, is treasure. This is the one that could cost you money, right? And that is, you could pay them for whatever. You could give them money. You could, if they're getting started in a business, you could give them seed money to get them started. The other thing is, don't underestimate the power of what you already own when it comes to treasure. An example is one member of the Generosity Generation heard about a couple who wanted to have their son or daughter, it was a son actually, take piano lessons, but they didn't have a piano, and they didn't have an opportunity. Well, this member of the Generosity Generation had a nice piano room and so on and so forth, and said, listen, schedule your piano lessons on one of these 2 days, and your son can have the piano teacher come over and learn on our piano, right? So the piano is the treasure to solve the issue, right? So treasure is overrated, though. We think that money is not the best thing you can give people.
Right.
It's really not. So treasure is a big one, though. All right, and then the next one is what I utilize the most often, and these are kind of ranked in importance and how I use them. The next one is team. Team is connections. Your team is your network of people, your community of influence or your sphere of influence. It's the people you know, and you can help people by connecting them to members of your team, of the people that you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an extremely valuable, extremely powerful thing, because most likely for them to achieve their goal or conquer their challenge, it's not a what, it's not a how, it's a who. It's a who. And you can connect them to that who, just like the way that you and I connected.
Right.
So team is a big one that I utilize often. The next one is one that I utilize often as well. And the sixth T of generosity is teach. Teach. We have a philosophy in the generosity generation: each one, teach one. And each one, teach one is that it is our lifelong, it is our duty as a lifelong learner to also be a lifelong teacher. We need to share the wisdom that is in our head. And too often we underestimate the power of that wisdom. But like this call today, I mean, this is a great example. People are going to hopefully learn one or two things on this call. My encouragement to them is pick one person, maybe a son or daughter, maybe it's a colleague in the office, whatever it is, and teach the concept to that person.
Right.
Because when one person teaches, another, two people learn. And so each one, teach one, and teach is the sixth way that you can give massive value first. And the last one is time. The most precious asset and most precious and valuable resource you have is your time. And when you give your time, you are giving the most valuable thing that you can give someone. And the best thing during that time is to give them your attention and listen. So time is the seventh T of how you can give massive value first.
I love it. That is gold. Thank you so much for sharing that. I did want to ask you one other question to kind of follow up on this. You had mentioned you've tried everything, and so, but this is what you do. You build relationships, you give massive value, you show appreciation for that. Where did it come from? Like, how did you develop kind of this mindset way of thinking? Like, where did this concept come from?
Well, it's honestly, I have to say, it's from reading 1,500 to 2,000 books, and learning from the wisdom of others. You know, all the way from Jesus to John Maxwell to Stephen Covey and everything in between. Is that the most effective way to move someone is to go with them where they already want to go. Right?
Yes.
So too often people try to persuade people to move people towards them, right? And the thing is that means you're a stable object. What you need to do is overcome the inertia and move towards them while they're moving towards you, and then you're moving together. And that's that right there, what I just said, that philosophy is the key to many instances of people, like How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie, right? Is if you really boil it down, that is what Dale breaks it down to. It's just this thought of moving with people versus trying to get them to move to you.
Yeah, I love that picture, because as soon as I'm trying to pull somebody, especially in our culture, like they recognize that immediately. So if you're moving with them, yeah, that's a great picture.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another place that helps is a lot of people on your line are very top. I know who listens to your show. I listen to your show, and it's people who are successful and so on and so forth. And too often they hire by fire. You know, they hire because they're trying to put out a fire. And what we need to do is instead of hiring that type of person, and maybe we even try to, like, well, I can train them up, or I can teach them up, or I can save them, right? I can take their situation and make it better, whatever it may be. And instead of doing that is the way that I've found to be successful with my team in Kansas City and in Atlanta is find talented people who are on an upward arch already and partner with them. So find out that operations manager who's going to be a phenomenal success anyway, and just partner with them.
Right.
Build your team with people that are already on an upward trajectory. Move with them versus trying to pull up someone that maybe maybe you're not going to have the time or training or leadership to do that with. Right.
Right. No, absolutely. Very, very well said. So I wanted to make sure that we touched a little bit on this concept of power notes. It's one of the tactics that you teach, and I love kind of your description of it. So maybe for those that don't know what a power note is, maybe just take a minute and just describe that for us. What is a power note? What's the purpose of a power note? How do you use that with regards to referrals?
Yeah, so my background is in marketing and advertising and communication, and that surprises a lot of people. But the reason that I am, I say a lot that it's time to quit marketing to strangers and it's time to start communicating with friends, which coming from a marketer and my background, people are surprised about. But the reason I can say that is because my background is in marketing and advertising, and I understand where their weaknesses are, and I understand that the positives and advantages to merely communicating with your friends to grow your business. Well, part of that is that, okay, everybody's been told to write handwritten notes, and however, they don't. And I explored that. I researched it. I'm really a research scientist at heart. That's what I am. And I found out that there's 150 excuses for not writing the notes. But one of the reasons is because they don't have a system for writing the notes. And so system, as you and I both know, is an acronym. I love acronyms. And system is saving you stress, time, energy, and money. And that's what the properly written, handwritten note, what we call the perfect note, what we call the power note, does for you is it makes the handwritten note the most powerful marketing piece that leaves your office on a daily basis.
So let's talk about that. I mean, I love systems. I know your system. I've adopted your system. I use it. But so let's talk about that. Let's talk about your steps to a power note.
Yeah. So quickly, the 7 steps to a power note. One, like a lot of these are surprise the heck out of people. But number one is use unbranded cards. And a lot of people are like, I just bought 1,000 of my business cards. And it's like, well, that's okay. You can use those for other things. But for your relationship building, you want to use an unbranded card because people refer people, not companies.
Right.
So you want to use an unbranded card. Number two is use blue ink. Being from the real estate industry, now I'm helping coach over 50 different professions, but I'm from the real estate industry, and when we go to closing, they say, sign in blue ink.
Every time.
And why do they do that? It's because they know it's what?
Yeah, it's an original.
That's right. Real, original, and authentic. And if there are 3 things that you want to be in the generosity generation, which is the economic environment we're in right now, you want to be real, original, and authentic, and blue ink shows that. The other thing is blue is a calming color, and the last thing is blue is the most chosen favorite color in the world. More people choose blue than any other color, so why knock it? Just go with it.
Absolutely.
Number 3 is use the word you as much as possible. This is a note about them. Try to write your whole note without using the words me, my, or I. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. If there's anything I can tell business owners out there is if you're going to get a facelift, make sure that you increase the space between your eyes because what I see out there is not enough space between the eyes of a lot of business people. They're thinking about I, and they write an I.
We like to talk about ourselves.
Yes, and that's okay. It's okay. But it's better when other people talk about ourselves.
Exactly.
So use the word you as much as possible. That leads to number 4, which is be specific with your praise. There's nothing more frustrating than getting a thank you note that says thank you on the front, and then they've written thank you in the inside and then signed it.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay. Well, thanks.
What
did I do? What did I do exactly? So be specific with your praise. Choose the spark in another. Choose what they really did for you in the other, and acknowledge it in your note. And then the next one is very big in regards to that. It relates to be specific with your praise, is the power of positive projection. Well, we negatively project all the time, which is we see in others the mistakes they make or the idiosyncrasies in them or the weaknesses in them to feel better about ourselves. We do this all the time. It's why we watch a car wreck. You watch a car wreck, you can't take your eyes off it. The reason for that is because they're having a worse day than you are. So you feel better about your day than seeing somebody else have a worse day. It's the same way with our weaknesses and so on and so forth. Well, if there's a negative, there must be a positive. If there's a downward, there must be an upward. So there's a positive projection. And positive projection, and I have to tell you, I am a result. I am a byproduct of positive projection. And that is, notice you have a characteristic or trait that you would like to improve on, like, say, organizational skills. Find others who are better than you at organizing or organizational development. Write handwritten notes to them acknowledging their organizational skills. After a while, and this happens very quickly, after a while you will find yourself, by simply noticing and acknowledging and writing their positive organizational skills, you become more organized and your organizational skills will improve. And I am proof of that one.
All from a handwritten note.
Isn't that beautiful? That's something that feels good for you to write and something that feels phenomenal to receive. They love getting it. Can also be a self-improvement device. That I love that.
It's crazy.
Love this one, and it takes me a little longer to explain the power of positive projection, but it is so worth it. I am that person. I have gone from this disorganized agent who had paperwork all over the place, which those agents and mortgage people know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of paper. I went from chasing paper half my days to now people consider me like Mr. OCD. There is a place for everything. We have a system for everything. And that happened simply, the 7 steps to a power note is the result of me acknowledging others for their organizational skills and the order that they bring to the day. And hopefully the 7 steps to a power note bring order to those that are thinking about writing handwritten notes. The last 2 elements are powerful as well. And the 6th step to a power note is to write rightly. And what that means is when you write your handwritten notes, you want the flow of the lines to go upward and to the right, like a sales chart would, or most corporate logos, like the Nike swoosh goes from a feel of left to upper right. You want your handwritten notes to be the same way. That actually comes from a book by the Maher Rogers, who did a ton of research on handwriting of successful people. And there was a natural inclination for that type of person to write so that it flows up and to the right. And I know there's Catholic school teachers right now that are like, that are like shivers are going up their spine because they taught to use a ruler and go straight across. But I for those of you that are using a ruler, just aim it from the left side up and to the upper right.
Up to the right.
The last one is the plus of the PS, and the PS comes from my marketing and advertising background, and every great marketing piece has one thing. Like all great marketing has one thing, and that is a call to action. Once they read the marketing piece or see the ad, what do you want them to do next? Period. So what we do is what do you want them to do next once they have read your note? And you want to put that into your PS. Some great examples. PS, had an idea, give me a call, and then your phone number. That is one of the top PSs you could ever write. Another one is PS, had a question, give me a call, and then your phone number. Those are phenomenal PSs that will get you results. They will get people to call you back. So that's the big thing.
Well, I was just going to say, I love that. When I read that in your book, it was something that just literally jumped off the page at me, and I thought that is such a great call to action. I'm going to do it, and I've tried it. And folks that I coach, I'll send them a power note, and I'll put that on the bottom, and invariably 99, 100% of the time they call. But I have had some people that have said, well, gosh, Jay, what do I do when they do call? Like, what is my idea? What what is the question I was going to ask them? So like, how do you coach people through that?
Yeah, great question. So so the first thing is think about it when you're writing. Like, if they called, what would I talk about? And what we have to think about, how does it improve or increase the relationship? How does it increase the speed for them to go to a 9 or 10 level into the referral zone, or how does it continue them being in the 9 or 10 the referral zone if they're already in the referral zone?
Okay.
Well, I can tell you that when I write, had an idea, give me a call, and then my phone number, 90%, and I almost said 99%, but I don't think it's quite that high, but you can basically say almost every time. My idea is that we need to get together. We need to get together one-on-one, and just I mean, period. So it could be a situation where I don't live in the same city as them, but I can see my schedule and say, you know what, I'm going to be in Kansas City over Thanksgiving. What am I doing that Tuesday of the week of Thanksgiving? Oh, it looks like I'm going to be in town. I'll just schedule a networking stack in Kansas City, and I'll make this person part of it. Even though that's several weeks down the road, right? That's my number one thing, that my idea is, you know what, we need to get together. And I have meetings scheduled for January of 2014. I have meetings scheduled for March of 2014. I mean, it's out there. So it doesn't mean you have to schedule it immediately, but that's the number one idea. If I say had a question, then I don't, in my mind, have it firmed up who their ideal client profile fits, right? Who is their ideal client? The other one is, I'm not quite sure how to refer them if I did have someone. So who do I send them? So who is the best person to send them, and how do I do that? Those are my top two questions that I have.
Perfect. That is great. Thank you. So so tied in with this concept of power notes, you have this great promotion going on right now. I'm working hard at it. I will confess I'm about 3 days behind, but I'm going to get there. So you've got NOTEVEMBER going on. NOTEVEMBER in November. So 30 notes in 30 days. So tell us about that. What's going on with NOTEVEMBER?
All right. Well, so this happened. This happened in basically early to mid-October. I network and I mastermind with some of the top producers in the real estate industry, and most of them are positive. I would say 99% of the group are positive, optimistic, and pleasant people. Well, there happens to be a negative Nelly, a lady who seems to find that the cloud around every silver lining, and she once again was kind of complaining about the market and complaining about things that change. Well, as we all know, everything always changes, especially in the real estate market. So she's always got something to say. And then she goes, well, look at that. We're coming into November, and even it starts with the word no. and I just bristle, right? I mean, I'm just like, I'm the opposite of that type of person. So I'm thinking, well, what's the opposite of November? How do we make November more positive? I was thinking about November. November is a really positive, awesome month.
Yeah, giving thanks.
And we have Thanksgiving, right? My mom's birthday is in November. I mean, there's like, wow, Thanksgiving's actually a great day or a great month. And I was thinking, okay, how do we change that? If we could do Yes-Vember, okay, that doesn't sound very good at all. And then it was like, all right, so how? And it's like, well, it's the month of giving thanks. So how's the best way to give thanks? Is I found that a thank you note is the best way to give thanks. So I thought, you know what, let's call it NOTEVEMBER. And I went to my little team and I just said, hey, we're going to make November NOTEVEMBER. And I know some of you fall a little bit behind on your handwritten notes. Well, we're going to write 30 notes in 30 days, one for every day of November. And my promise to you is I will give you a memory jogger each each day to help you think of someone to write a handwritten note to. And it started out like that. And then a couple of people on my team posted something on Facebook, and then it got onto my 7-level site. And then, and then boom, here we are, and I'm spending a lot of money in developing and getting the trademark for NOTEVEMBER, and it's NOTEVEMBER.com, and you can go to NOTEVEMBER.com, join by simply clicking the button. You join through Facebook, or you join at NOTEVEMBER.com. You join with your Facebook account, so you don't have to worry about passwords or usernames or anything like that. And then go to Note Tracker, write your handwritten note on your thank you notes, and then log it into Note Tracker. Make sure to put your PS in there so that you can track who responds and who doesn't from your PS. Jay, we're over 1,200 notes written.
Wow.
Every single note that someone writes contributes money to Notes for Coats, and Notes for Coats goes into a fund for buying coats and warm winter gear for homeless and needy, with a focus in Colorado. The reason the focus, I mean, now we're going to do this all over the United States, but Fort Collins and Lyons County, Colorado, didn't just have the flood. Everybody heard about the flooding and how bad it was, and it wiped out, streets and cities and so on and so forth. Well, it also wiped out a warehouse for homeless gear, wiped out a warehouse of coats and warm winter gear, and it's Colorado. You know how cold it gets.
Right.
Well, not only did they have a flood, they also had a forest fire. So it's a particular hard hit area. So that's where the focus is, and then the epicenter we'll build it out from there. And I encourage everybody to donate, to coat drives and food drives this time of year. So every note you write, which makes you feel good, it makes you better as a self-improvement device. It makes the recipient feel awesome.
Right.
We're sending out a huge wave of appreciation to the world, and we're also contributing to a great cause.
This is getting me excited. So for those that are listening, we're halfway through the month, but it's not too late, right, Michael? I mean, let's jump in. You can catch up and let's do it. Like I would just encourage my folks to let's get the 30 notes done in NOTEVEMBER. Couple other questions I want to ask you. You've been doing this a long time. You've worked with a lot of people. You've seen the good, the bad. You've seen the ugly in people. What would you say is the separator, like between your average producer in the mortgage or real estate business and then the top producer? Is there a way that you could boil that down into an attribute or maybe one or two characteristics? Like, what have you seen?
Well, first of all, you made me sound really old, and I'm not that old, just so you know. It's like, man, you've been around a long time.
I don't think you're that old.
A long time.
I'm almost as old as you, so I don't think we're that old.
So all right. So yeah. So it kind of goes back, and when I think about this, a great question, by the way, because that's really what it boils down to is how do I be more of the success? How do I be more successful? Well, I take on the attributes and the traits of successful people. That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
So, so you're familiar with Britney Spears, right?
Yeah.
And you're familiar with like Charlie Sheen.
Yes.
Right. You've heard.
Right. Heard of those guys.
So they have something in common, right? We got to watch them go down a downward spiral, a very public, a very humiliating public downward spiral. And I think I have a theory on that. I have a theory on why that happened. And why is because Britney Spears' album was #1, and Charlie Sheen's show, 2.5 Men, was #1.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thought is that they had fought their whole life to be #1. And now they were #1, and it's like, where do I go?
Right.
#1. And they quit learning. They quit honing their craft. They thought that, their life was done. It's like I did my whole life's goal. Here I am at 28 for Britney or whatever, is I've done it. But the thing is I want everybody to know is that there's something more important than being number one. And if there's a downward spiral of life, well, there must be an upward spiral of life. And I truly believe this. And the upward spiral of life, so how do we get on that? Well, the first step, luckily this is an acronym, LIFE. The first step, and I want people to remember, I mean, the first step is a step. I want you to imagine a spiral staircase that's going off into the heavens. And the first step is L for learn. Hopefully people have learned from this webinar today. Hopefully they've learned something, and so the first step is to learn. So get on the upward spiral of life is learn something. Well, it doesn't stop there. Learning without application is just entertainment, right? So learn, and then the second step has an I on it, of course, because we're spelling life here.
Yep.
And the I is for implementation. So implement. Learn, implement. The second step is implement. Well, the third step is going to surprise some people. It has an F on it. Well, the F is for fail. Learn, implement, fail. And yes, whatever you do, whatever you learn and implement, you're not going to do it perfectly, period. No matter what you do, you're not going to do it perfectly. You're going to fail at some level. And just know that failing is a part of life. More than just the acronym life, failing is a part of life. Well, and that leads us to the fourth step. The fourth step has an E on it, of course. And the E is for evaluate. What we need to do is we need to evaluate what we just learned, implemented, and failed at, and evaluate, does it align with my values? Does it make my heart feel good? And does it help me achieve my goals? Does it help me get to where I want to go? And so we have learn, implement, fail, evaluate. Well, there's a fifth step. And the fifth step, once again, has an L on it. And that L is for learn. The sixth step has an I for implement. The seventh step has an F for fail. And the eighth step has an E for evaluate. But here's the thing. You're not learning at the same level. You're learning at the fifth step. You're learning at a higher level.
Right.
You're implementing at a higher level. You're failing at a higher level. You're evaluating at a higher level. Donald Trump fails at a higher level than most developers. They all fail. It's just Donald Trump's failing at a higher level. Successful people and top producers aren't not failing. They're just failing at a higher level. Here's the other thing, is that what I have found between the average and the top producers, the 3%ers, the 10%ers at the top, run up that upward spiral staircase. They run up the stairs. And they run up the stairs. They learn, implement, fail, evaluate, learn, implement, fail, evaluate. They don't do it like learn, maybe I'll implement, maybe I'll do it, maybe not. Maybe I've learned something in this audio. Maybe I'll play it again later. I'll do this webinar later, right? No. There's people that are listening to this right now that have already written a note.
Right.
And the people are, some people are listening and laughing right now, but it's true.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's the power. There's somebody that's already written a note with the 7 steps to a power note before we end this webinar today.
Yep.
That's the secret to becoming a top producer.
Gosh, I love that. I love that. So well said. And I think your theory, by the way, on Brittany and Charlie, I think it's dead on. It makes me think back. I know Tom Landry tells a story. He's the head coach of the Cowboys, and he talked about as a player wanting to be number one, and his whole life shooting to get to the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl, and he wins the Super Bowl, and it's like, what else? What else is there? What else is there?
Yeah.
So I love that concept
Mastery.
of mastery.
Yeah.
Be constant
It's
state.
not about being number one. It's about being mastered.
Mastery. Being a learner. So yeah, thank you. That's excellent. So we'll get close to wrapping here. I have one other question on referrals, and this comes up as I'm coaching people, and I think there's some fear built in to this mindset. So I wanted to ask you about it. Sometimes folks will say things like, Jay, I know referrals are important, and I, we're talking about how to do it, why to do it, how to build a business on referrals, but they may say something like, I don't like talking about myself, and I feel like when I'm asking them for a referral that I'm bragging, that somehow it's coming off as me promoting myself. So have you seen that, and kind of how do you address that mindset with folks?
Well, don't ask for referrals. I mean, that's the secret.
Yeah.
Is that I mean, number one is that this subtitle of my book, The 7 Levels of Communication, 7L, the subtitle was Go from Relationships to Referrals Without Asking.
Right.
And it was just too long for the cover of the book, so we took off the without asking part. But that's the philosophy.
Right.
Is that, I mean, so here's the thing. First of all, don't ask for referrals directly. If you ask for them on paper of some sort, in your forms, in your intake forms, in things where they could write it, and they're at choice. When you ask them directly, they're not at choice, right? You put them on the spot.
Yep.
You've made the entire thing awkward. And that, I have to tell you, I mean, there's people that implemented that early in their career, and they are now in the NFL. And the NFL is not the National Football League. The NFL has no friends left.
Right.
They've asked, I mean, that people are avoiding them.
Right.
They don't even know that they're avoiding them, that they're avoiding them because they don't want to be asked about referrals. So don't ask for referrals. The key is more referral conversations. More referral conversations. The best time to talk about referrals is when somebody asks you, how's the best way to refer you?
Right.
That's a really good time to talk about referral, right? The best time to talk about what you do is when somebody asks you, what do you do? It's not asking up front. Well, the best way to get them to ask what you do is to ask them what they do.
Right.
Isn't that funny?
Yes.
Lead with give massive value first. Ask them what they do. Get really interested in what they do. And what happens is this interest leads to you becoming more interesting, which leads to them being interested
right.
in you. And at the point where they become interested in you, that's what happens, or that's what becomes referral conversations, is you give massive value first, and like you help them conquer their biggest challenge, or you help them achieve a goal. They're going to say thank you, and they're going to say, well, how can I help you?
Right.
Or how can I help you achieve your goal? Well, the answer is that it's referrals. The answer is referrals. We need to coach them that the way to thank you and the way to reciprocate with you is through referrals. And that's the power here. Is it's about more referral conversations, not about asking for referrals. Quit asking for referrals. You're making everybody feel weird and feel awkward, and it's not your skill, it's not your talent, it's not that you deserve or earn referrals. It's the approach. Asking for referrals is a selfish attribute, right? If you're
exactly.
a good person, you won't ask for referrals because it's selfish. What the motive is for you.
Me,
but,
right.
Yeah. But if you are interested in more referral conversations, you will have more referral conversations because they are mutually beneficial. You can refer them, and they can refer you.
Right. Well, and you mentioned Carnegie earlier too, and obviously that book is a guide to everything you're describing here. When you show actual interest and you actually care, that comes across. People can tell the difference. And when folks just ask for referral, I think the word you used there was perfect. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable. But when you give first, when you give value, that just opens the door for a very natural conversation. And so, boy, I mean, I'm glad we got that in. That may be there was a lot of great things you covered, but that may be the best concept of everything we've touched on so far. So anything else? I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here, but is there anything else maybe that I've missed that you want to cover before we close?
You know what? If people are interested in hearing more, I think the best thing they could do is go to facebook.com/7levels, and the 7 is spelled out, so it's SEVEN levels. Just go to facebook.com/7levels, and we talk more about how to have more referral conversations, about how to write your power notes, and it's kind of the hub of the educational wheel at this point, and you know, would love to hear more from those that heard this. And you know, there's a lot of myths about referral generation. We need to change our entire mindset about how to get referrals, because what people are saying, what people are training on, in most cases, is a regurgitation of what was thought to be by people who never got referrals in the first place. And now that I've been through this, and you know, 500 referrals a year for 10 years, 5,000 plus referrals, and honing this on a daily basis is I've found there's at least 7 to 10 myths that we need to eradicate when it comes to referral generation. And we don't have time to cover it today, but for those that are interested in that, I'd love to see them out at facebook.com/7levels.
So again, I've been chatting with Michael J. Maher, the author of The 7 Levels to Communication. And if you want the shortcut, we talked about there's no magic pill, but like if you want the shortcut on how to grow your business through referrals, then you need to read his book today. And if you've read it, read it again. Additionally, you can apply to become a member of the Generosity Generation at giftofgenerosity.com. And I also want to encourage you guys again, please take that challenge, write your 30 power notes for NOTEVEMBER, and you can log in, as Michael said, to NOTEVEMBER.com to get started. So Michael, thank you again so much for taking the time to talk about referrals and relationships today. I really appreciate it.
Listen, Jay, I have to just acknowledge you and the value that you provide on a daily basis to not just the real estate industry, but everybody that comes into contact with you. Thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for you being you and the value that you provide on a daily basis. You are an example of giving massive value first, and just know that it's appreciated not just by me, but by everyone who comes into contact with you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. So thank you again for joining us. This is Jay Hughes from Press On, dedicated to helping you guys close more loans in less time.